This time on the Everything is a Primary Source podcast, we talk about the Beatles on 8-track. As a fellow educator, I know that taking our social studies classes to historical sites and museums can be a rewarding experience for everyone involved. But between coordinating transportation, keeping track of permission slips, and paying out of pocket for unforeseen expenses, it can also be a large task for a busy teacher. The Everything is a Primary Source to Go artifact borrowing service replicates the most engaging part of a museum field trip, and that's interacting with real historic objects directly in your classroom, but without the process and cost of taking your class off campus. The Everything is a Primary Source archive contains ephemera and physical objects dating from the 1820s onward, with emphasis on the 20th century. Pre-made and curated kits pull from the collection and are designed to complement your curriculum, just as the exhibits at your favorite cultural center do. Visit everything-history.com to learn more about EPS to Go and how it can help you bring the museum to your classroom. Welcome to the Everything is a Primary Source podcast, the show where we navigate history through popular culture. I'm your host, Eric Salmonson. I'm a social studies teacher, historian, and pop culture enthusiast. Each episode, I sit down with everyday people to discuss the media, objects, places, and events that shape us and reveal what they say about the past, as well as who we are now. The Everything is a Primary Source podcast is, therefore, your history, my history, our history through popular culture. So I'm so happy to be here with Morgan, and you're from the Creative Guts podcast, which I gladly was a guest on earlier today. So tell me a little bit about your involvement with Creative Guts.
Well, to be honest, I am just kind of getting involved as a kind of behind-the-scenes person. I just started doing it with them. I've been a guest on their podcast previously, but I was kind of looking for I'm looking for other things, you know. For a lot of my life, I was a chef, and I got very sick in the year like 2016. And becoming really sick, it really is like everyone says, where you come out different and like you look at life differently. And so I decided that I wanted to do something. I wanted to do something that mattered with my life. I felt like I was kind of lost, and so I went back to school to finish my history degree to become a history teacher. Oh. And so that's what I do now. I teach 7th grade ancient civilizations. I'm
a history teacher too. So look at that. We found each other. Where do you teach, if you don't mind me asking?
I teach at Kingswood Regional Middle School in Wolfboro, New Hampshire.
Excellent. I'm right here in Dover. So we are
right on.
Kindred spirits, I suppose.
Yes.
So I'm so glad that, and I assume you like what you do now.
It's the greatest gift that I've ever received. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you find that any of your skills from being in food service have carried over into teaching at all?
Stress management, I would say, is the biggest one that comes to mind. For a long time, I was kind of I was that fiery, angry chef, like throwing pans and stuff.
Oh, geez, like Gordon Ramsay.
Sure. And it was actually my wife who always worked side by side with me, who was like,
stop that right now.
it was more that she was like, you're gonna kill yourself being like this, And so that kind of started me on this really long kind of mindfulness journey. And so it really, that is the biggest thing for me, is like I'm kind of mindful and calm at all times. And so I think that transfers well to the students.
Yeah, no, that's a good, they need that. They I'm sure, enjoy your class for that reason.
Yeah.
And the content as well. So you chose from my collection of things, the Beatles. This is part one of the Beatles' greatest hits from 1962 to 1966. Just call it the Beatles 1962 to 1966. Was it the Beatles or the 8-track that caught your eye?
It was mostly the 8-track aspect of things. I do love the Beatles.
Okay.
I had Let It Be playing this week in my car because I was like, I really want to hear that song. What is it? The Two of Us song that opens that. Yeah. And so that was on the drive to work a lot this week. But the reason I picked the 8-track is because it is we're in this digital world of ours. Yeah. We are losing the artifact. Now all music and everything like that, it's all just on our phones.
Yeah.
And so if one day someone decides we're going to delete that from the internet, it's lost and you can't find it anymore, And so DVDs, CDs, things like that they're important to me.
Yeah.
And so I keep them all the time. And anytime I'm able to pick up something like that, I still do. I still buy them because they're artifacts that I'm protecting for the world.
You and we have the same mindset, absolutely. Mm-hmm. I mean, just look around. This is a drop in the bucket of my collection of physical objects. And it's interesting. I don't really, and this may sound bad as a teacher, but I don't really read books front to back.
Sure.
What I do instead is I get my literature through the bits and pieces of this physical media.
Sure.
Backs of VHS tapes or slips of paper, cutouts from newspapers. And whenever I go, and we get most of these things from, and I've probably said on this podcast a dozen times, but we go to Goodwill clearance centers. So even beyond just regular Goodwill and Salvation Army thrift stores, the clearance centers, everything they can't sell in their stores, they just put into this giant warehouse, and they put it into these giant tubs, and people just sort through it.
Awesome.
It's
that
incredible.
Sounds like so much fun. Yeah.
You should go.
Yeah.
It's the closest one. It's actually not terribly far from Wolfboro, up in Gorham, Maine. About an hour drive for you.
All right. Well, I live in Dover.
Okay, so it's about an hour. It's not bad. And they have, so for media, for example, it's 50 cents a pound. So you could load up on records, CDs, tapes, books, of course, paper items. Like, I'll sometimes have a whole cart of paper items.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, this is going to be a fortune, but it's 50 cents a pound, so it's like $20.
Yeah.
And I love it for the exact reasons you just said.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that was the impulse back in the 70s when they made these 8-track tapes because they knew no different. I mean, computers in those days were cards, and they took up an entire room. It wasn't something that I think like the personal computer was shortly on its way.
Sure.
But it wasn't something that I think a lot of people were envisioning was going to take the place of the music and movie watching venue. Like, those were, in those days, compartmentalized. You listened to your music on a stereo. You watched your TV on a television.
Sure.
You watched your movies in a movie theater. That's how you deal with it.
Yeah.
There wasn't this floating around stuff that can evaporate.
Right.
The people I was just talking to you before, just now, said the exact same thing. There's a desire, I think, that still exists, especially for those of us who are old enough to remember the physical media age.
Yeah.
To either hold on to it if we have it, or maybe even collect more of it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, do you think that was on the minds of people in the 70s, or do you think that was just, hey, we need another form to...
Well, I think in the why did they make it aspect of things, that was what I think is funny about an 8-track is, like, as far as media goes, the 8-track was not around for very long, like in the scope of those things, right? Like,
replaced by the cassette
tape became very quickly, and what I think was funny about that, as far as the question of why did they make it, it's like, well, that was the new media, and they were like, we got to have this out, right away, because people are going to want Beatles on 8-track.
Yeah.
And so it's funny to me to think about the fact that it is like, the 8-track is something that if I showed that to my 12 and 13-year-old students, they they would be like, what is that? You know, like it's
Some kind of weird lunchbox.
They'd know what a cassette tape is. They'd know what a DVD is. They wouldn't know what that is.
Yeah.
And that's what's really interesting about 8-tracks, as kind of they're almost like the laser disc, you know,
Right.
like that kind of thing. It's like there were a couple there along the way that happened and then immediately were gone.
They threw the paint on the wall and saw what stuck.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It kind of stuck for some people. I've never met like an 8-track aficionado. There's
No.
nobody who's like, yeah, I love 8-tracks. 'Cause
No.
they take up a lot of space.
Right.
You know, a record actually takes up less space.
Yeah.
Obviously more portable than a record,
Yeah.
but it still takes up a lot of space. And then there's not even that much content on it. It's in its name. It's an 8-track, so there's not going to be. You can't fill up. You know, this requires 2 of these to
Yeah.
get the whole record
Right.
of the Beatles, and so it was like self-limiting, almost from the word go. That they're like, well, we can't. And what a bad time in music history to be doing that too, because by the 70s, new music was much more long form. You had like Iron Butterfly doing
Yeah.
an 18-minute long
Yeah,
Inagata
yeah,
Davida.
yeah, yeah.
Like, it would soon turn a corner. I mean, the Ramones would make songs in less than a minute. And they went back to the old rock and roll sound.
Sure.
And I think you can actually fit an entire Ramones album. I've seen them on 8-track.
Oh, I'm sure you can. Yeah.
But that was not for a couple more years. And by the time the 80s come around and the pop record goes back to 12 songs rather than 8, as it was at the beginning of the 70s, you know, we've moved on to a new form of,
Yeah.
and that'd be the cassette tape.
Do you keep this stuff around your classroom? Do you
I-
have like stuff like this?
So I have a pop culture class,
Yeah.
and depending on the decade that we're studying, I'll bring in the physical media to
Yeah,
that.
I have things everywhere in my classroom. Like I have an old film projector. I have
Nice.
like all this different stuff that the kids like. The records actually they're super interested in. Like I start the year by talking about historical context. So I do it by explaining the JFK assassination to them because it's like, you know that this happened, but you don't know any reasons why, or, you know, like we're going to explain the context around this event, right? And I play a record of JFK's speeches. And like their eyes light up when you start playing a vinyl record in front of them. Because half of them, at least, probably have never even heard something played through a vinyl record before. So I really like my classroom's covered in
It's
nonsense.
fun to be the introducer of that too, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like I get
Oh,
to
yeah, that's
reveal
totally
it on
true.
the platter with the.
That's very true, yeah. I spend a lot of time off the topic of ancient civilizations because of that.
But that's an important thing, because even at a topic like that, it leads to so much potential, because not only are there parallels,
Yeah.
you know, the ancients had their own media as well. It might
Right.
not have looked the same way as ours, but
Yeah.
they also went through time periods, and there was changes that took place, and contextualizing is everything. So even if it's just demonstrating contextualizing an ancient period,
Yeah.
you still need to do it for
Right.
1960.
Well, and I do a lot of kind of connecting that, because it's hard for kids at 12 years old to relate to ancient civilizations unless, you know, like just in general. So if you can introduce a tool, introduce something that they're going to utilize that they can then use for the ancient civilizations, that's the goal.
That's true. And they can be historians
Yeah.
with any subject.
Right.
They don't have to be... Because, like, you know, when I got my degree, my master's in American history, it was like, and they didn't say it to me on the stage as they handed me the diploma, but the implication was, it's not, I know everything about American history.
Yeah.
It's, I know how to...
You know the tools.
Do it.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
And I know how to get value out of different things.
The thing with a history degree is that so many people will try and quiz you on something, and it's like, no, I don't know, and they're like, how did you not, you know? And it's like, Yeah, I didn't get a degree in memorizing dates and battles.
If anything, that's kind of like the lower end of history.
It's
like, did you know?
Yeah, exactly. But everybody thinks that. It's like I basically got a degree in research. That's what
because that's what history is. I think people misunderstand. They're related, obviously. History and the past. But history changes. History is up to an individual person or a time period. It's human-made.
Very much so.
Whereas the past is the past.
Yeah.
And it's what we do out of it. So this little artifact of the past got us a nice conversation. One last thing I think I'll point out about this, and I think you'll absolutely agree with this, and one of the reasons why the LP record is coming back into fashion is the artwork, which for this one isn't dramatic. It's just the Beatles leaning over a balcony is really all it is. But the graphics that you'd get, like an artist, Phil Hartman was a graphic artist before he became a comedic actor, and he did album covers for groups like America.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
It's a cool little factoid. Like you just, because in those days, an album cover was like a palette.
Yeah,
you could
absolutely.
work with it. Whereas now in the digital era, when who cares if it's just a little picture of something? You see a lot less money being poured into graphics because that's not how you sell things anymore.
I know.
But if it's placed like a giant picture in the storefront, this 8-track doesn't have that.
Yeah,
like this is like postage stamp size compared to what the record has.
But do you remember, or do you know how were they packaged? Because I
think they had a box, right? Yeah.
It must have had a box, so there must have been at least something there. But I remember there being covers over the tops of them. Was that right or no? I thought that there was some sort of cover.
I have one at home. It's of a James Bond soundtrack that has. It was like a sleeve kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so it'd cover up this, obviously, to keep the dust out and whatever. But it was cut out where the image was. So they would just use this.
Yeah.
They wouldn't make two covers.
Yeah, I think the branding is definitely part of it. Yeah.
Kind of like early days of CDs. Remember they used to have those giant towers long sleeves.
Yeah.
For security purposes, and then the boxes would kind of follow suit.
Yeah.
I love talking about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, Creative Guts, how can somebody listen to or access?
It's available on all streaming services. You'll be able to find it for sure. It's all about Creative Guts is about kind of celebrating our creative endeavors, no matter what they are. And that's what I really dig about what they've been doing on that podcast. I think it's really cool, and it is a nonprofit organization on its own. But there's also a lot of people who speak better about it than I do.
I think it'll be extra confusing if I air this episode at the same time they air the episode that I was on. So then people are like, which one am I listening to?
Yeah. You guys got to get together on your release dates. I think we are
very similar in celebrating the spirit of what it means to be a human, right?
Isn't that
what
absolutely.
we're all about?
I can see that connection for sure.
Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
Popular culture, by definition, connects and unites us, and proves that people of different backgrounds, in fact, have a lot in common with one another. I hope you enjoyed this conversation, at least in part, for that reason. If it connects with you and you'd like to add to it, or any of the podcast episodes, just visit everything-history.com and search for the Everything is a Primary Source project, which can be found in the classroom section of the website. We'd love to hear what you have to say. Be sure to rate and share this podcast wherever you are listening to it now, and follow Everything as a Primary Source on social media, including YouTube and especially Instagram. Thank you for listening to the EPS podcast, where everything is a primary source.